right. Live from Landing Zone Studios, this is NOLA Famous. I'm Tatum Gardner, and I'm here today with my co-host, Terrance Osborne. Good afternoon, Terrance. As always, thank you for being here.
Yes, Tatum, thank you so much. And we are so happy because our special guest today is the first woman to become mayor of our city in the entire 300-year history of New Orleans. We are delighted to welcome Mayor LaToya Cantrell.
Oh, thank you all so much. I'm just happy to be here with you all.
Well, you know what, Tatum, when I woke up this morning, I said, this is the first time I decided, what shirt am I going to wear today? I put on my best cologne. I'm like, I'm so excited.
This is like the biggest thing we had in the NOLA Famous Studios before. And
Yes.
if we sound a little out of breath, we might be because we actually just greeted the mayor with a proper Mardi Gras second line by the brass band at Landry Walker High School.
You did, and they only impress as they do consistently.
Yeah, big shout out to them, right?
Oh, yeah, and the leadership, absolutely.
It was amazing to see you interact with them. It was an emotional moment. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I got choked up at one point when you were talking to him, like telling him all that positive stuff about, how the city is for them. Young kids need to hear that because when you're growing up, you feel like you're detached from the city. It's not until you become an adult where you start to realize the city is yours. So to be told that early, it was just refreshing to hear. So I appreciated that.
Well, it does matter, and we need young people to be involved at every level. And when you look at history and where change has occurred, young people have really been at the forefront of it. So New Orleans isn't immune to that, and I want to instill that sense of being and worth, self-worth, and connect that to the growth that we want to see and the change we want to see in the city.
I love that.
I do too. And was that one of the reasons that you ultimately decided to run for mayor?
It really was. I served on the New Orleans City Council for about 6 years. And while I enjoyed representing District B, which is a microcosm of the city of New Orleans demographically and social economically, I also understood that I was at a disadvantage. I am results driven. I want action. I want to do the work. I'll take responsibility, for it. But I was limited in that ability as a council member, and I did not want to waste my time. So I'm not in this to be elected like a status. It was using my time, because this is my life.
Right.
And time matters, and time is short. But where could I spend it to have the greatest impact while living my life? And I chose to not seek a second term on the New Orleans City Council, which I could have done, to run for mayor. And that would have been, very comfortable to do. I was elected in 2013 initially, and I was reelected without any opposition. I was absolutely in a position to continue to stay, in that role with little competition.
Right.
But it wasn't about that. It was where I'm going to spend my time and how I'm willing to give it all I have. And so the voters elected me, the first female mayor of the city, but it was two females that made the runoff, so that made history in and of itself. And of course, me winning that election, but I've often said it's not about being the first, it's knowing that I will not be the last, and that's important.
Well, I was reading that, which I didn't realize, that you were born in Chicago.
Los Angeles.
I was born and raised
Los
in
Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Okay. Born and raised in Los Angeles. Los Angeles girl, moved to New Orleans to go to Xavier.
Yes.
My alma mater, XU. Yep.
Yes.
Yes. And then, so what made you stay? Did you stay here from that point on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I moved to New Orleans in 1990. My first visit to New Orleans was in 1988 when I was a 10th grader on a road trip with my grandmother and my mom. And on our way from Birmingham, Alabama, going back to California, the I-10 will take you straight to LA. We stopped in New Orleans, spent 6 hours, and after that, I just couldn't get New Orleans out of my mind.
Really?
And soon it became a part of my heart. And I started to write a professor at Xavier, Dr. Grimlich, in 10th grade. And we communicated. And so by the time it was time to apply for college, I applied to Xavier. And to the point where I lied and said I applied to all these schools, Cal State schools, free tuition, that sort of thing. And I only applied to Xavier, and I say now that Mother Catherine Drexel, who's a saint now, was looking out for her baby.
There you go.
Way back then, because I was accepted. But I just believe that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And my soul found its home in New Orleans. And graduating, never looking back, always rooted in community. And going to Xavier and living on St. Charles on 3rd Street, and catching the streetcar and then jumping on the Louisiana bus, I just saw the disparities in our city, and that were right in front of your face, and where you can be on the corner of Mansion and a block over, and all hell breaks loose, or you get on the streetcar and you see life, and in terms of the tourism, tourists and visiting, just the energy, and then transferring to that bus and seeing sometimes a lack of hope in the people who are the backbone of this city. So I just got connected to community and connected to people and committed my life to this city.
Yeah, that's.
I love that. Yeah.
I do too.
That down home story.
You can't make it up.
No, you can't.
It's in your heart and you can't get out.
Yeah,
it's true.
To know New Orleans is to love her. So let's talk. Obviously you're super busy schedule. If you look at your past month just on social media, because you have a really strong social media presence, which makes you so relatable to everybody. Let's talk about that. Like a day in the life of the mayor. Like, what did you do this morning? You woke up and it's just nonstop, right? From the time you get up till the time you go to sleep.
No, it's true. And every day is different, which keeps it fresh and keeps you kind of fired up.
Yeah.
Depending from going from one issue, to the next. But today, I got to welcome King Zulu and King-elect to the mayor's office, and all the characters, and welcome Zulu. And that was a big deal. I used to love that while on the city council, but being able to welcome them to the mayor's office was a real treat. And then, right after that, just kind of hitting the ground, focusing on, infrastructure needs of the city. I had a public safety press conference, so had to do a meeting again with all of our public safety leaders in the city, from local to state and federal partners, to ensure that we're prepared, to serve and protect our residents and our visitors in the city. And before coming here, I had to call one of our employees with the Sewage and Water Board who was hit on the job yesterday by a vehicle, but he's okay. But so it's highs, it's lows, it's all the things you may expect, and then things that you do not.
What do you do, like, if you want to decompress and you just want to turn it off? What is one of the things that you enjoy doing, like, for peace of mind?
Well, for peace of mind, I really like to just sit and be, just like, peace be still, and with a glass of wine.
Right. I do have wine here, just saying.
You're my kind of woman.
And it is after 5, so.
My kind of woman and mother, I have to say.
Well, speaking of woman and mother, obviously I know you a little bit on a personal level. Our daughters go to school together, but how do you balance it all? Like, you're so busy. You have your daughter, you're a wife, you're the mayor. You have so much going on. Do you ever feel like everything, like nothing gets 100%? How do you balance your life?
It's a constant work in progress, yes. I would say. And I'm very spiritual. Doesn't mean that I go to church every day or make mass every day. I try, but I don't. But I am spiritual. I have an altar in my office, a kneeler. I have my candles that I make sure I get from St. Jude, and I light them daily. Sometimes I leave them lit all night, depending on what I'm in prayer about. But being very much in tune, and I am in constant state of just prayer for discernment and just peace and knowing that the decisions that I have to make, that I really ask for the spirit of discernment so that I can make the best decision based on the context that I have at that particular time. And there's, sometimes it's like you're damn if you do, you're damn if you don't. But I'm the type of person that always lands on that side of damn if I do. Because I'm going to do. But the balance is very important, and I am very much engaged with my daughter. She is an active part of my work environment too. She's at City Hall daily. She has a little job there. She actually helps with social media. If staff isn't with me, she makes sure she takes photos and she sends them up the chain. And when her photos hit social media, she feels a sense of inclusion and a sense that she matters. And so now you don't even have to ask her, like, she's just on it. And she is on top of the issues. So I say that she's my worst critic and my best supporter. And she keeps me grounded.
You need that around you.
Yes.
You do. And, husband, I've been married 19 years. And it's the support matters, and it's the people that you surround yourself with. And
yes.
At times, you've been a supporter of mine, just being there for me and my child,
Right.
And you can't do it alone.
It takes a village.
It takes a village, and I thank you.
No, and I thank you too. I think, the most important thing, and one of the reasons that we wanted to do this show is just to constantly focus on the positivity of all the situations and to let people get to know the person that we're interviewing intimately inside and out, and have it just be all about positivity.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so speaking of your daughter, though, you I like sometimes I'm in the media, right? Now, my kids I have 3 kids, and they're not as always impressed with me. Like, for instance, like if I'm on the cover of some magazine and I show them, they're like, oh yeah, that's cool, Dad, But you're the mayor, so what does your daughter think of that?
Well, she thinks she thinks that.
Is she like, oh my God, my mom is the mayor? It's not like that.
She's hit a pothole. You need to fix these streets.
Oh, she's down to earth like mom.
Oh,
yeah.
She really keeps me grounded.
Oh, that's
I can see her say, like, when you y'all have the same expressions. Knowing her and knowing you, it's funny. I can totally see Reagan say she's a trip. That girl is a breath of fresh air, and she will tell it like it is.
Oh,
I know Reagan enough to know.
She just sees where there's a need, but also a solution even to a problem. So she's very focused.
She's a problem solver.
She is.
Look
and I
at
think
that.
that's just really how she's been raised.
Yeah.
And I was rebuilding my community post-Katrina when I was pregnant with her. And, and didn't even know I was pregnant until 4 months. Wow. And it's a truth, But I was just constantly just rolling and rebuilding and fighting, and so she's just a part of that, and a community child.
She's seen it. Yeah.
She's seen it, and when I was on the council, I think that's had an impact too, because she was 4 years old when I was elected to the council, and she knew the issues then. I remember in the hallway, someone called her in the hall and said, "Tell your mom to vote no on the smoking ban."
Oh.
And she said, "No, my mom is for the smoking ban." And then they had to come in my office, and I said, "Man, what are you teaching your child?" She almost bit me a noodle in the hall. So she is keenly aware of her surroundings and people and the disparities and wanting things to be better.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And it's a balance too for her, because it's like keeping her grounded.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the mayor, but I can't. If you don't listen, you can get yourself into trouble that I can't help you with.
Right.
And I'm not. Look, you just like everybody else, And,
that's the best lesson for kids, like letting them know they're just like everybody else. That I think there's not a better gift you can give to them. Like you're standing in front of a person, you're just like them. That's
it's
wonderful.
true. And then also, recognize, the lens that you see life through and your experiences. And I know that I'm a female. I also know that I'm a black female. And I know, that there are, disparities and certain biases that people live with. And so being knowledgeable about who you are and even how the world may see you, or how certain experiences shape people's thoughts and perceptions, we have to just be mindful of that and be open to love and get outside your bubble, and at the same time expect that from other people.
Yes. So when you're running for president?
I'm not running for president,
But are
Jay.
you going to run for another term of mayor?
Well,
do you think?
I'm absolutely planning to be effective in this first term, to where that will give me the honor and privilege to serve a second term. And so I tell my staff, like I had a meeting yesterday, we were on homelessness, and this is a top priority for me as well, but street homelessness. And I'm like, look, we have to be bold. We have to, and I'm willing to be bold. We may not have the perfect solution. No city seems to have, but we have to do something, and we can. And I'm willing. Like, this is the year of being bold, because you get into 2020, and then you start to move towards re-election. And I want to be for people and for issues every single day, because that's why I ran, and that's what I'm called to do.
Yes.
So it's results.
Do you find there are more now? I know there's a group of female mayors in the South that there's more a strong female presence in government now.
There is that you can't deny it, and we're seeing it in the South. We're definitely seeing it across the country. But when you see it in primarily Democratic cities that may not be in a Democratic state, and so there are challenges, but it is a sign of progress, and the need to be inclusive of everybody,
Right.
because that's the only way that you're going to create. For me, I look for win-wins, and everyone needs to win, and you have to step outside of the comfort zone, cross the line, and love everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
And bring people along too.
Yeah.
You and several of the other sister mayors were honored by Essence, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, we were. And so I've met so many of my sister mayors, and from I have one, I call her my mentor, Mayor Catherine Pugh, out of Baltimore, actually, where she just now has our former chief of police, which I'm supportive of that. But even thinking about Mayor Weaver, or thinking about Karen Freeman Wilson out of Gary, or even my own sister Mayor Sharon Weston Broom in Baton Rouge. It's really a big deal. Even Lance Bottoms, in Atlanta. The support system is something that we are really cultivating and nurturing that relationship, because there's a certain set of struggles that you have being female, being even being African American, but being in this position, but upholding what we value, and that's women and women leadership. And
Absolutely. You were quoted, I think, as saying females are taking their place at the table in government. I'm sorry, at the table. And were you talking about in government or in general?
Well, what I was speaking of was one in government, but really, in general. And women have been stepping up and haven't been recognized as much, for their efforts. And when you embrace and uplift a woman, you are uplifting that entire family, bringing the males in your family along too. But at the seat in terms of government and being in the room, where it happens,
right,
is an advantage.
Yes.
And that's what we have to see it as an opportunity for further future growth.
So let me ask you this. What do you think New Orleans needs more of? What does New Orleans need more of right now?
I think New Orleans needs more of what she generates. New Orleans.
And so you're talking about the fair share.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's what New Orleans needs more of. More revenue that's generated off of her culture, and her people so that she can reinvest in herself and in the daily quality of life and the disparities that exist in this city. And right now I'm pushing absolutely for her to have her fair share, with the priority really being infrastructure at a level and at a scale of substandardness. I don't even know if that's a word.
It's gonna be today, yeah.
but it is, like today, we have to reinvest in the infrastructure. We've kicked the can down the road as far as it can go. I'm the woman bending over to pick up that can and being very open and honest about what's there, and it's not good. We have over 100-year-old pipes. We had one burst that was 111-year-olds last week, and we can see this happening at any given time, any given day. We have discovered through research of my administration that our drinking water is the same water that's used to cool our turbines. We have too many streets that are impassable. We have flooding that occurs due to rainwater. We have a lack of transportation options for our people that we really depend on to get to work, to drive this economy.
Yeah.
So it's so many needs, and we need more revenue so that we can address those needs, because the money is generated right here.
And you're talking basically, tourism is the biggest industry in the city and the state.
Tourism is the biggest industry, absolutely, that drives the state economy, and of course that of the city in terms of businesses, but not in terms of government and city services. We get the least amount of any city that is a destination city in this country. We generate over $200 million a year, the industry does, and the city of New Orleans gets 9% of that. And 70% of that money goes to 4 entities that market the city, as well as oversee 2 main assets, state assets, your Superdome and your Convention Center. But 70% of our money goes there. And the lack of accountability is a problem. No one's elected, but they determine how public dollars are spent off of the industry. So that has to change, and I'm not saying we gut the funding, no. Because we need the industry to survive. We want it to survive, and we want it to grow.
So what can you do about that? What power do you have in that situation?
Well, the biggest power that I have is, one, educating the public about what the problems are, but also what the solutions are. And I cannot do this without the public's engagement. And also, calling the governor and their legislators, both city council and state. So what I can do is advocate at the highest level possible. What I can do is really work with the state legislature, as well as our local, delegation in the city council, to make those changes so that we're getting our fair share. And really what I have responsibility for and over, or authority over, is the internal responsibility of looking inside government now. How are we using our resources effectively and adequately? Looking at how I'm implementing now zero-based budgeting practices with every single department within city government. And what that means is getting us on a budget versus actual on a monthly basis, so that we can track our spending, so that we can track not only the spending, but is it aligned with the goals that we've set, for the administration? Is there some overage? Did we over budget? So therefore making the shifts to maybe other areas where the needs are greater. During some internal auditing, which we're bringing back the internal audit division within city government that's been dormant for over 20 years. Again, looking internally, how we're spending our money, building in efficiencies, using the money more, wiser, being wiser about that.
I have to say I'm excited that a woman is a mayor, because my wife takes care of the bills in the house. I would ruin it all. So I'm happy to hear what you're saying, how transparent you're making things, and I think we're going to be good moving forward. So I appreciate that.
Work on it. Listen, I say my love song right now to New Orleans is Anita Baker, giving you the best that I got.
Oh.
And so I say, hey, I'm gonna give you the best I have.
Yes, I
give
love
the
it.
city the best I got.
You
So.
just picked your intro song for the podcast. There you go. There you go. So let's talk about, okay, so the past month has been super busy. You talked about that one initiative or whatever. Let's talk about some things that are more fun. All right, let's talk about the Boycott Bowl.
Okay, yeah.
Over $57,000 was raised for NORD.
Was raised, and I hear this over and over in my head from Kango Slim, saying that, we're raising this money to invest in the future champions, and that was our young people. And that's how they decided, NORD, the foundation, to reinvest in programming and, the ability to meet people where they are. And so I was very excited about their leadership, and Travis and Kango, and just coming together in a short 9 days.
9 days.
And also to our artists who stepped up and gave their time, to make Boycott Bowl not only possible, but a great success. And it just stood up the people of this city, the resiliency of our city, that we take a blow, and we turn it into a positive.
And we come together.
And we come together like no other.
I thought the press that we got from that, our city just looked, before we even knew about the donation, we looked incredible. And then after that, it just legitimized, you can't mess with New Orleans.
No.
You cannot mess with New Orleans. Bring it on. If you think so, because we're going to take it and we're going to rise.
That's right. Yeah. I know I said all positivity, but I'm glad the Super Bowl sucked. I just have to say.
That's a positive statement.
In New Orleans it is.
Yes, it is.
Only in New Orleans. That's one of them.
That's right.
Well, speaking of only in New Orleans, so I have to ask, the D.C. Mardi Gras, does that compare to, do they do it right?
They do it, and it's the only state in the country, and this has been going on for 75 years, where we convene in D.C. with lawmakers and collectively as a state, where you can get things done and have multiple meetings on various issues. I spent several days there, and I was up early for meetings, and I was up late at night, with the partying. But we got a lot done, from meeting with our congressional leaders about transportation options, infrastructure in this city, even, as it relates to Bell Chase and us wanting to expand there. The new base that the federal government is looking for in Bell Chase is one of 5 that they're looking at, and me advocating for Bell Chase for the state of Louisiana is a big deal. From building partnerships with other lawmakers across the state and talking about fair share and building those relationships so that they know that, hey, New Orleans, we know that we drive the state's economy, but the attitude doesn't have to be that, and it's not our attitude. And as mayor, I wanted to convey that, not just with action, but also in connecting with our people, because what I did hear from them was that absolutely, when they're out and when they're visiting somewhere else and they're asked where they're from, they say New Orleans, because everyone knows New Orleans around the world.
That's right.
And they understand the importance of New Orleans and what it does mean to the state of Louisiana. But when you're there with lawmakers from across and business leaders from across the state, it's a unique advantage, that we have. And I often leave, I leave fired up, because we really have the best. We have the best people, we have the best spirit, we have the best natural resources, and there's no reason why we should not be leading this country.
Yes.
As a state.
Yeah.
And because we have everything.
Yeah.
And so
and everybody wants what we have, everybody wants a piece of it, Yeah.
It's true. So let's get out of our own way.
Yeah.
And let's improve the quality of life across the state of Louisiana.
Yes.
Because we can.
Yes. Well, I have a more of a personal question. So, what do you want? I don't mean what do you want for the city, or what do you want for your family? I mean, what do you want? It's a general question, but what do you want?
what I want is you asked me what do I want, and it's like it's hard to say what I want without wanting for the city.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm mayor, but that's what's driven me all these years to just give myself to the city.
I love that.
And in ways you just can't get it back.
Mm-hmm.
With leading the city through recovery, through my neighborhood organizing efforts, that was volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working my job, but also doing that full time. But it was for the love of the city and for her people. And you don't get that back.
Yes.
That time is real.
Mm-hmm.
And the sacrifices that you make and that your family makes, it's real. So I want my time, my sacrifice, my love, my sweat equity, my hard work, and even my shortfalls to benefit the city in a way to where people feel their worth and their value, and for the city of New Orleans to truly be recognized for who she is and what she's meant to the state of Louisiana, in ways that we can feel it. And people say how they love New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, show me.
Yeah.
Show me how you love New Orleans
Yes.
in a way that goes beyond self.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, now's the time for that.
It is.
I agree. That was a good question.
Yeah.
It makes you think. Terrance always makes you think, like, on a deeper level.
That's why he has this creative mind.
Yeah.
And it comes out in his art, and it's inspiring.
I do my best,
Yeah, it gives you hope.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So, let's talk about the swearing in of the new Commander-in-Chief, Sean Ferguson, and how you decided to promote from within.
Yes.
That was a big deal.
Well, I got some pushback from it, initially, but I knew that I was doing the right thing because we do have men and women within the New Orleans Police Department that have the capacity to lead the department. We are training police departments across the country. And we are gold standard. And yes, we're in a consent decree, but we're doing remarkable in it, which is a testament to how far we've come, but how we're good. Our people are good with men. So I didn't need to do a national search. And I'm not a show either. So I don't want to do a show to make you think one thing for what? It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's a waste of money. And we don't have time.
Right.
And when you think about your police force, and even with the gains and that we've seen, it's very important to act swiftly, especially when you have the leadership. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I sat with and interviewed the few individuals who expressed an interest of being chief. I did have one who was not a part of NOPD that expressed an interest, but I was honest, and I said, listen, I don't want to waste your time. I respect you, in your role and in your leadership capacity, but I'm looking within. So I don't want to waste your time, and we don't need to meet about this,
Right.
Because I'm picking from within, and they appreciated that.
Yeah.
But
honesty,
honesty, but knowing I'm absolutely confident in NOPD, but also in the chief that I selected, the man I selected to be superintendent, and that's Sean Ferguson. And the support of the rank and file has been tremendous, but even the support in the community. And so that's what's going to make us even better. But it did mean something. I found more so on the back end to people who appreciated the way that I managed through that.
Yeah. So, speaking of the way you manage, my wife is a meditation guide. And so I've seen what it does for her clients. And so I noticed that you introduced meditation to City Hall for the employees. Like what made you do that?
Well, I'm big on public health, and I believe I look through a lens of the public health lens, and everything touches it. Everything. whether it's jobs and economic development, workforce, housing, transportation, of course, wellness, public safety.
Yes.
Everything touches public health. And we have to be intentional about not only meeting people where they are, but giving them the tools and the space to be well.
Yeah, I love that.
I do
You know,
too.
just to
Yeah.
be well.
Mm-hmm.
And it has really been embraced, by the public, but by the employee.
Yes, of course. I know they love it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. It really is being embraced, and it's the small things. And we're creating a space for lactation room where mothers who are breastfeeding can go and have that quality time and not feel intimidated in any way or unconscious about what they should be able to do.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. Do you ever tell the employees, like, they're stressed out and they're telling you something, look, go meditate in the room?
Yeah, exactly. And go.
Go clear your head.
Clear your
head, yeah.
And people are finding it for themselves, and even residents. And they go, and one lady came, got so frustrated. She was hot. She went in and she cooled off, and it's like that's a good thing.
There you go. That's good. Yeah.
The stress is real.
Yes.
And everybody is dealing with it and deals with it in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's the end of February, Black History Month. So talk about some of the celebrations that the city had. We had the march.
Yeah, the biggest was really the Martin Luther King Jr.'s march, and prior to that, we had a very short program that ran for about an hour. I invited our former mayor, Mark Morial, to be the guest speaker. It was his first time being home for MLK Day in 15 plus years.
Really?
So I welcomed him, which is important. So it was a great turnout. We had the former First Lady, his mom, Ms. Sybil Morial. We had doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, those who were on the front lines during the Civil Rights Movement here in New Orleans. We had it at the Jazz Market on Aretha Castle Haley, being intentional again. So that was good. The march was great. So it was a way, again, bringing people together, and it was a moment to not only celebrate, but to also act. So it was a call to action at the end of that.
Yes.
To where we have to get involved, and we have to care about where we live and our people, all people. Yeah.
Another one of the things that happened in the past month that I thought was a really positive thing was the gun buyback. Yeah.
I thought it was great. Now, I wish, one thing that was different, we had a stipend of $500 for, guns. And
Per gun, so like
Per
somebody
gun.
turned in a gun and
So-
they
we
got
did up to
$500.
two.
So I missed that. I didn't see that. What is a gun buyback?
Well, one thing that seems to have proven to be effective are these gun buybacks to help get guns off the street. And so I wanted to, and we created one in the city of New Orleans where I allocated out of private money $100,000 to go towards this effort. And initially we said all guns. And so we had over 1,500 people lined up to turn their weapon in for $500.
Right. And it was like you could just turn it in, no questions
No.
asked,
Oh,
kind
wow.
of thing. So
Okay,
to get the
yeah.
guns off the street,
Yes.
right?
But the problem, the biggest, it was bittersweet. One, we were able to get some real guns off the street, and upward over 300, close to 4. And guns, and I remember a police officer saying, "Hey, this is the one we use. This is the one." So real guns.
Yeah.
But we ran out of money fast.
Of course.
When you said $500,
Right.
but I wanted to make it worth people's while. Meaning $500, you can pay rent with that. You can, pay a house note. You can pay for your child's child care for a month.
Groceries.
You can
Yeah,
groceries,
right.
your
That's
car
clever, yeah.
note,
It's
your
substantial
insurance. It was
enough.
substantial
Yeah.
enough, which is why we had over 1,500 people lined up. But wow, the bitter part was I had to turn people, which means turn those guns away.
Oh, yeah.
Because we didn't have adequate funding. But those were guns back in our community.
Yeah.
So we're going to do another, and I want to do more of that and with more money because it was appealing. It got people out.
Of course, yeah.
So I had people, mad. Oh, they were mad because they didn't get to turn in their guns. So one of oh, you lied. And on the other end, thank you, man. Great job.
Right.
Great job.
Jackson with 500, and he's like, I missed out.
Exactly.
You got to get here early.
Oh, man. So we're going to do a better job next time, and we will. We are doing an action, like an after action report that the NOPD wants to limit it to handguns only because those are the guns that we're seeing used in violent acts throughout the city.
Smart, yeah.
So we're wanting to target handguns only. I still want to keep it at that $500.
Yeah.
But we got to get these guns off the street.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
I mean, but the first time you do something, you're gonna have to tweak it. It's
Right.
not an exact science.
Yeah.
You don't know how to buy back an illegal gun.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. Well, I'm just going to go back
Yeah.
to when I say damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yeah.
But I'm going to damn if I do because
Yeah.
we're going to do something.
Well, I guess, and so that leads me to my next question. Like, what is the most important lesson you've learned to date, being mayor?
Ooh, the most important lesson, which I know, but the listening part, and that's always a work in progress. Do more listening than, talking but it's also who are you listening to? So do your due diligence with getting the various voices and get outside the bubble before making a decision. One of the biggest decisions I think that I had to make was when I was embarking upon hiring a former police officer for Homeland Security. And on the front end, I did not listen closer to those who were victims of, their families being murdered on the Danziger Bridge, for example, which then brought out, because I went through mediation between both parties, but it brought out just pent up trauma and hurt, and also having to recognize that when you've returned to the city of New Orleans in that post-Katrina environment and you stayed in New Orleans and you haven't left since, you've been working, you've been fighting, you've been standing up, you've been taking it, you've been resilient. You had to bend, but you didn't break.
Yes. And
so thinking about it that way and then recognizing that I'm one of those who didn't leave, who stayed, who stayed engaged, who did not go away and decompress, and deal with those stressors or that pent up,
right,
emotions.
No, you rebuilt Broadmoor.
Right. So it's like I had to step back and appreciate what those families were saying. And I understood where they were coming from, and I had to change and say, hey, I understand, and what I thought was the best thing to do, it's not the best thing to do for the city of New Orleans at this time. And so I think leadership means being able to admit when you need to change and being willing to make that change and stand by it. And I don't think it's a sign of weakness at all. I think it's a sign of growth, respect, and real maturity. And I listened. So that was the biggest lesson of being so,
right.
But I had to step back.
And you have to develop thick skin. I mean, how do you handle your critics, your haters? Like what? I
don't engage.
So you're able to turn it off. You're able to just
I just don't engage. I don't read the comments. I don't look at the paper like talking about it. I have people in place to do that and give me the news.
You don't give it life.
Right. And what matters and even the thoughts of what's, the people, but I have to let the critics not allow me to lose focus. And so I stay focused on the support because it's much greater, and that allows me to do what I'm elected to do. Because if I'm focused on the critics, then I'll never deliver, I'll never get things done for people.
Yeah.
And they're not critics to for my good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and I have to think not just my good, but that's also the good of my family, the good of people who are making sacrifices for me to serve. And so I teach my daughter as well, like, she has to develop thick skin.
Yeah.
My husband, because you have to let it roll off of you, but that's where the spirituality comes in. You have to be good in your own skin. And when you're built up from within, you can say, bring it on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Take your best shot.
I
And
love
that too.
that.
I think
Yeah.
when you have the best intentions, it doesn't get to you as much.
It's true.
You know, like when
That's
you
right.
know, when you're saying within yourself, it's because you 100% want what's best. You're not perfect.
Yeah.
You're human.
That's not going to derail you,
No, but
Yeah.
the universes will work and bend in your direction.
It's true.
I believe in that, as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, yeah.
And what you put out, you kind of get back.
Yep.
And so I'm always kind of focused on the positive. I see a glass half full, but that's that's been me.
Yeah.
And so I brought it with me to the mayor's office.
There you go. Well, we're happy to have that.
So mayor's office. So talk to us about your ball. Don't you have a mayor's ball coming up?
Mayor's Ball is coming up tomorrow, and I have tickets for you all. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's at Gallier Hall. So it's my first mayor's ball, first female mayor.
Oh, my
We
God.
have to toast royalty in the city.
That is going to be so much
I
fun.
love that.
So
Well, we'll
I'm
be
like,
there
oh
for
my
sure.
God.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. I'm honored. I'm honored that you're even sitting across from me.
I
which,
know.
I'm obviously a woman of faith too, because how is it that I started this podcast and I have Terrance co-hosting with me,
Yes.
you sitting across from me? I just believe if you pray
Faith.
hard enough, anything's possible,
That's
right?
how it goes. Yeah.
It really is, and we got to keep hope alive.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we didn't touch on as far as the city of Yes that you would like to get across to anybody?
Well, what I do want to get across is that when I talk about fair share, it's across the board. It's not attacking one particular industry. It's across the board. It's looking internally in terms of how New Orleans can get our fair share, and it's looking externally. But the needs of this city are great, and they really do lie along the lines of infrastructure. But we can get there, and we can get there together. And that's the only way. So
Will you come back and give us updates here and there?
yeah, I would love to, and I
We would love to have you.
and I appreciate the Landry Walker and giving them a shout out again.
How much fun was
Yes.
that?
Oh, that was too
and
much
the
fun. Yeah.
leadership there is just so inspiring. That's inspiring NOLA.
I
so.
guess I want to end the show maybe with just two questions. The first question would be, when Rayanne lays her head on her pillow every night, what do you want her to know?
I want her to know that I love her.
That's
I want her to know that I love her, and I want her to just be the best person that she can be, and that she's raised to be great. She's raised to be great, and that's it really was instilled in me. Like, we're here for a reason,
Right.
and get outside of yourself and be great, and so I want her to know her value and be confident and strong, and so.
I don't think she'll have a problem with that.
No, not at all.
And so, final question. What do you want the people of New Orleans to know when they lay their head on their pillow at night?
Well, I want them to know that I love them.
Wow.
I want the people of this city to know that I really do. I care, for their well-being and that of their children and their families. And I want them to know that they matter.
You're getting emotional a little bit.
Well, and that was almost the same answer as your daughter's. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
I love
true.
it. Yeah,
This city is destined to be great,
yeah.
and it's all because of her people.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think that's a great way to end it. We can't thank you enough for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule. And with Mardi Gras prep, I'm sure your days are 10 times busier than normal. So,
Yeah. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes,
wow.
yes, indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.